Allow me to introduce myself.
I am the last sane sports fan.
I am a genius by trade.
I just knew too much. Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Does that make me crazy? Possibly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to The View from the Midwest. As a professional, I am not going to discuss the St. Louis Blues' poor performance in last night's game against the Minnesota Wild. Forget all that. I'm going to tell you what I really think about all that happened. And the horse they rode in on. All right, now that we got that out of the way, it's all good. Let's talk a little bit about Tim Tebow. He has officially signed a contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, at least heading into training camp. There is no guarantees that he is going to make their roster. There is no guarantees that he will ever play another meaningful NFL game in his career. But I like the fact that somebody is giving him a chance. Out of all the teams out there, I think that Chip Kelly's system is built for Tim Tebow should he ever get an opportunity to play in another NFL game. If Tim Tebow can't make it in Chip Kelly's system, then I honestly think that his time as an NFL quarterback is no more. It's a sad state of affairs. I root for the guy. A lot of people don't like him. They didn't like him at Florida. They didn't like the way that he carried himself. They didn't like the fandom that he had, the fervent following that he had, based on the fact that really he didn't do anything as a player in the pro ranks. He did a lot in college. He may go down as one of the better college quarterbacks of all time, if not the greatest college quarterback of all time. You can debate that left, right, wherever you want. But the bottom line is, Tim Tebow won in college, and Tim Tebow has won in the NFL. Let us not forget that he led the Denver Broncos to a playoff berth in 2011. He ended up defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, they won in spite of him, and you can't necessarily completely argue against that, but he was under center for the majority of that year once Kyle Orton got hurt. And the bottom line is, he won the games. And that is what I don't understand about this anti-Tim Tebow sentiment. You can look at the statistics, and as a passer, he is not very good. He is averaged, or for his career, he is under 50% in terms of completion percentage. And his best year, he had 1,700 yards passing, but he was still 49% in terms of passing yardage. And I'm looking at the stats right here. He was 126 for 271 with the Denver Broncos in 2011. But the year before that, he was 41 for 82, which was 50%. He has never averaged more than 20 yards attempt per game, 20 attempts per game. So he is not necessarily the greatest passer of all time. His best completion percentage actually came with the New York Jets. He played in 12 games. That's kind of a misleading statistic. They put him in 12 games. He only attempted 8 passes, completed 6, so obviously a percentage of 75 right there isn't too bad, but the New York Jets just really botched any kind of opportunity for him to play any kind of meaningful minutes for that team. Rex Ryan, I think he was forced upon Rex Ryan. I think Rex Ryan had no intention of using him at all. I think it was coming from the higher levels to where they were supposed to play Tim Tebow. They did not, at least not more than Rex Ryan was absolutely going to be forced to. But the bottom line is, he's not a great passer. He will never be a starter in this league. He's never going to lead a team to a Super Bowl by himself. But there are so many bad quarterbacks in the NFL who have a job right now as second or third string quarterbacks And you can sit there and say, well, we don't want the aggravation of having Tim Tebow on our roster with all the extra fanfare that gets brought in and people saying, well, why don't you play Tim? Why don't you play Tim? Listen, this is your job. If you can't just ignore that and push that away, then you don't need to be an NFL coach or an NFL general manager. Tim Tebow can do enough to help a team from the bench, from an emotional standpoint, being a team leader in the locker room, what have you. There are so many quarterbacks who don't deserve to carry Tim Tebow's jockstrap that have jobs in the NFL that I don't understand this issue that he can't have a chance in the NFL. Now, I heard on NFL Live on ESPN the other day, they basically fall back on the stats every single time. There are quarterbacks that are second and third string in this league that have absolutely terrible stats and cannot win a game. Look at Sorgi. Jim Sorgi, I believe his name was. I can't remember the first name for sure. But the longtime backup for Peyton Manning when he was in Indianapolis. I apologize if I'm completely butchering the name. But regardless, once Peyton Manning was gone, once he was injured, that was a joke. A Super Bowl caliber team all of a sudden was a team barely capable of winning 2 games. Now you can't tell me that Tim Tebow couldn't come into a situation like that and at least inspire the team the way that he did the Denver Broncos. Yes, they weren't a great passing team, but when you can win games, that is the bottom line in the NFL. And Tim Tebow knows how to win games however he manages to come about it, whether it's rushing, whether it's pitching the ball out, whether it's trying to run the option. You can put in packages for Tim Tebow, and he will be able to at least be a serviceable backup. There are plenty of players who are 10 times worse than him that have jobs right now. So I am appreciative that Tim Tebow is at least getting the opportunity. If the Eagles don't think he's well enough to make their squad, that's fine. They have a plethora of quarterbacks right now. I still don't know if Sam Bradford is going to end up being their quarterback or not. I think they might have picked him up to use as trade bait later on. But if he ends up being a starter, that's perfectly fine for him. They've got so many quarterbacks in the system now. Sanchez, Bradford, Matt Barkley, and then there's rumors that they still want to go after Marcus Mariota. Tim Tebow may not even make the roster, and then this rant will end up being all for naught. But I don't see why there aren't NFL teams out there, and I'm glad that the Eagles were not lumped into this category that aren't willing to give him at least a shot. Comment, rate, and subscribe down there. Share this around with your friends. Let's get a lot of views on this one and subscriptions going forward. Until next we meet, this is The View from the Midwest, and I will see you next time.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space.